I'm Barney, old feller. I'd like to tell you a story about a little lady who began life, a little innocent farm girl in Missouri, and ended by her destiny, I guess you would call it, by her ability to finagle and use her charm, became one of the richest women in northern Arizona. In fact, probably all of Arizona at that time. I'd like to tell you the story about Jennie Banters. I think you will enjoy it. This is the way Jerome looked in his worst decline in the 1960s, when it was a virtual ghost closed. Most everybody had left. In fact, Phelps Dodge wishes they all had, because they were going to make an open pit out of the town. But the townspeople, a few of them, held on, and nobody would leave, and they wouldn't sell their property. So it stayed. And it's the very famous ghost town now. This is Cribs, the famous Cribs. The wooden buildings were right on the back of there, and the doors led from the front street back into the Cribs. One time, instead, there was over 100, because Jerome boom town, a fantastic boom town. Jennie was her parents, none of her relatives seemed to much have one to do with it. So wagon, Arizona, and the down beside food for favors, and soon had a thriving establishment. Jerome now is a place where people come to that don't like the rest of society. And they thrive here. This is the old Bordello district. Houses. And like the House of Joy. Now is a restaurant. But at one time, Bordello, with gambling, and upstairs. In fact, all of the second street here was lined with the same buildings. Some good, some bad. There was wide open gambling. Jerome never closed. It was 24 hours a day. It had over a population of over 15,000 at one time. This was back a little before copper took a nosedive. Now, Jennie kept her money in this fantastic bank, right next to the big glide slide. The big slide that took the middle of town right out. And, I'm afraid, made quite a few more haunts. I believe there's probably more ghosts running around Jerome than any other town, because violent death was an everyday occurrence, whether by hanging or being the perpetrator in the first place. Very substantial building, because at that time Jerome was the 5th largest in Arizona. Italian Masons put up a strong, which still stands. Only economics is what ruined it. Quite a tourist spot. Copper. This is the old Marmon Studebaker dealership. And there was a Chevrolet dealership, Ford dealership. Of course, this is a little later on. Full bloom, very early. Several little parks around now. They didn't have room for parks in those days. Every place that could put a building on, there was a building. Many businesses. Money flowed. They didn't come to Copper Camp for nothing. Built. Our first ones were burned down by the businessmen, jealous, because soon after Jennie arrived with 4 girls and rented a building complete, a wooden building, opened up for business with a party, the whole works. And very soon she won the respect, except for the and the pious were always her enemy. But Jennie, like I said, was what, and she knew how to please. Now this building at one time was a restaurant at one time, and at one, I believe this was family death. Let me tell you what happened here. I had the whole Sunday night around. I had shut all the doors upstairs in my room, and I was taking pictures of the names on the key. So when I went back to the inn, I took the Miss Kitty's room and checked down the hall. Perfume. I was taking a picture the door to the Montana room opened. The people complained that they couldn't get open, but I had just shut it minutes before. Occasionally, you will see Jennie. I don't think she knows. She's supposed to go. It's about, you watch, you're going from here, yep, and because Jennie ran a tight ship. But everybody wanted to work for her. She bought a lot of jewelry, bought a lot of furs, several times. Come up here in the middle of the week. See, it'll spook you. All of the upstairs rooms are empty. The tourist season hasn't really got into full swing, but very soon there'll be somebody here every night. And then Jennie don't come around much. I'm going to go to bed, and I'll tell you what happened here. I put my little derringer on the table and went to sleep. Heard somebody in the room. So I grabbed my flashlight, and sure enough, there was Jennie, curious about that little pistol. And whenever she realized that I was taking her picture, she kind of faded out. During the morning, there's no sign of her. There's no smell of rose perfume. And everything's back to normal. I've been around Hanks before, and they really don't bother me as long as they're not violent. Of course, there's a few that are further up on the hill around the hospital out here. Some of them up there will do you in or do you harm. But there ain't no sign of her. It's called the Miner's Roost Hotel, or the Jerome Inn. If you have a mind to, come up here and stay. It'd be real nice. The building was built in 1899. It's about 5 years, 6 years before Jennie died. There's a gal, or maybe that's an apparition, walking across the park up there. I wonder. I'll watch her, see if she comes down the stairs. It looks like she's got a 1890s dress on. Kind of pale and looks very innocent. Well, she never did come down those stairs. It's kind of like Jerome looked when Jennie arrived and began her thriving business. Of course, she left over to Gold Road where she had a house over there. And I believe she had a place in Oatman. Smelters belching acid, sulfur smoke, destroying the hillsides, destroying the vegetation, but making a lot of money. And the people didn't care. Everything would grow back later. The Montana Hotel, supposedly the biggest hotel in Arizona. Didn't live long though, didn't stay long. Kind of like the Little Daisy. I think the Little Daisy was open about 10 years, and it closed. Montana, they tore it completely down. I guess it became unstable. Mule trains are arriving daily, hauling supplies. Boomtown. And Jennie was getting her share. And people getting more jealous. During its boom, Jerome began to put up brick buildings, concrete buildings, and a nice row for the elite to live up on the hill, on the side of Cleopatra Hill. The fabulous boomtown, the fabulous Banters. The smelter didn't stay up here long. They finally moved it down into the valley, built a real modern smelter down. I think Senator Clark had something to do with that. And a modern, it was the most modern, although it still belched sulfur smoke. Because that's the only way that you can mine copper. This was Jennie's chief competitor, the fashion. They said that at their time, when they were going the best, they were selling a barrel of whiskey every hour. 5 bartenders going steady, gambling, waiters, tile sealing, copper tile. But Jennie just kept on with her small places. 6, 8 girls in it. And in the meantime, she was buying other establishments. And not body houses. She was buying stores and restaurants. And becoming more and more rich as time went by. Jealousy got to be pretty bad. And greed. One particular man, Mr. Jordan, who was her competitor in what he considered legitimate business, finally got her done in. Her boyfriend was a morphine addict, and Jennie was supplying this habit. Giving a lot of money to the church, too, at the same time. And still, she made more. Well, the boyfriend finally done Jennie in. Shot her 5 times with a pistol. The old Montana's gone now. Only thing, the foundation's still there. I guess Jennie's not comfortable. And if she likes it, you can see her. And I ain't kidding. Because she's still here. The town's not changed much. Nellie Bly is still going. They call it the Nellie Bly. This was her prime business. In fact, this is where she got done in. They hung old Lee. They hung him up in Kingman so that the miners wouldn't get him here. Because Jennie was their pal. There's a lot of steps that don't go nowhere in Jerome now. And a lot of buildings that you don't dare step a foot in. You'll either fall through or maybe the Haints will get you. You never know. Anyway, it's quite a place. And I'll see you around. Next time we go hunting. That's the story of the miner's pal, Jennie Banters. in Diablo.
Yeah.
I mean, they felt that a little bit. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we got a long way to